Hey guys, it's Will Chandler here. Guardian Fury is my handle. It's a Friday evening and I had a few minutes, so I thought I'd make another video. And for Micah, I got my scotch, but I left the rocks out for you. Well, anyway, thought I'd give you guys an update on how everything's going, and if any of you have suggestions for me on things to bring up, definitely let me know. Because I think all of this is really a group effort to try to make all these things happen, right? So I have been still continuing my talking with the elders, and I've focused a lot upon the Greek word prototokos, the firstborn, the preeminent one, the one that's the originator of all things. And so we've been kind of getting in depth with that, and it's been interesting to see him making my case for me sometimes without even realizing it. And I'm just kind of waiting for some of it to sink in, and I'm going through methodically and slowly, step by step, like because we've been getting into the nature of who Jesus is and the nature of who God is, and what all that means to a Christian view outside of the Jehovah's Witnesses. And so that's been some interesting conversation, and it's made me smile a lot because I know that he's trying to understand my position on it, and I remember how much I used to struggle with it until I did my research into the Greek and what some of these words meant. And so I remember being at the place that he is now and not understanding someone that could have my view of things. But again, that's before I actually did research on it. And so it's making me smile a little bit. And of course, the research I did wasn't inside the JW libraries and whatnot. So I'm getting an unbiased view of things versus, so I'm showing him the unbiased stuff and he's showing me stuff from jw.org, which then I have to debunk, which I've been slowly doing. Um, I guess another thing we've been getting into was um, I guess trust issues, because obviously he doesn't know what to make of me, and he knows I have zero trust for the organization, which confuses him because I've told him that I separate him and the other elders and the other Jehovah's Witnesses. I separate them in my head from the organization itself. And I said, no, I don't trust your organization. But that doesn't mean I can't learn Bible truths from you. If you have something that you can show me and prove to me from the Bible, I'll believe it. And I honestly mean that. And so it's confusing to him because they don't, they don't separate the two versus I do. I separate the religion slash cult life from the individual Jehovah's Witnesses. And so he sent me that video that Tony Morris did back in 2015 while the Australian Royal Commission was going on, and they held up that magazine about child abuse from the early 80s, the same one that has a subliminal image of the bull's head on it that I did an early video on. So he sends me that video, and he said maybe this will help build trust on how the organization deals with and views child abuse. And so I watched it again. He sent it to me. I watched it, and I replied back on text. I said, all that video does is whitewash your history and ignores and covers up what your corporate policies were at the time and are for dealing with child rape. And that caught him really off guard. And so he ended up sending me a couple lengthy texts and not understanding why I would, a little bit understanding, but it threw him off because I didn't hold back, And so then I responded to him because, I said, well, you have an idea of who I am now. So why would I make a comment like that? I said, if I read the timestamp correctly, that was a video that was put out during the time when Australia was destroying the JWs in the courts for their lack of child protection and for their lack of dealing properly with safeguarding children and child rape and hiding lists of pedophiles. I said, it feels to me like it was a damage control piece for the internal Jehovah's Witnesses. Look at the time frame of it. And anyway, so there's definitely subjects I hit hard with. I don't back down on at all. So in the course of a conversation a few days ago, he asked me if since your mother's a Jehovah's Witness also, can I have her name and number? And I asked him, this was on text, and I replied back, why is it that this isn't the first time you've brought this up? And he gave me a non-response, really, saying that he just wanted to check on his sister's welfare. And I wrote back, are you sure you're not just trying to check up on me? And one thing led to another, and finally he admitted that yes, because of my harsh statements sometimes and the extremes of my story, he wanted to check up on it to see if it's true. And I said, thank you. That's all I was looking for, was a little bit of honesty, just like I've been completely honest with you about investigating your corporate side of things. You don't have to sneakily try to ask for my mother's number. So I did tell him I'd have to check with her before I could give it out, because I'm not just going to give someone's number out without asking first. And so I did. I contacted my mother, my incubator, and I asked if she'd be okay with it, and she said she was. So the next morning I sent him a text with my mother's name and number. And I guess it was a little bit of a gamble because it could have gone either way depending how my mother was feeling about me that day. But it seems to have paid off, and he seems to still be talking to me, so I guess it worked out. And so, like I said, I've been going over all things Jesus with the elders, and the one younger elder in particular, especially the last week and a half. And so, on that note, I brought up the Reasoning from the Scriptures book, and there are other publications that, in particular, Reasoning from the Scriptures, starting on page 89, where they try to debunk the cross. And so I brought up the fact that they use the Imperial Bible Dictionary and use the ellipsis to misquote it and to disguise what that Bible dictionary actually says. And I sent him a 3-page scan of the actual book itself and said, well, why is it that, I said, here I am fact checking and checking sources in your books, because I was thinking that probably is the only way that I could build trust in your organization. But look what I found out when I'm fact checking your view of the cross and Jesus being on the cross. And what I'm finding is blatant lies and misquotes in your book. And I also brought up the JD something. I forget right now. But anyway, another person they quote is a known psychic/spiritist guy that his whole mission was to try to debunk the Christian Jesus. and try to say that Jesus was like the god Horus or something like that from Egypt. And I said to them, how can you use someone that is trying to attack Christianity as a proof that there wasn't a cross used, even though we know from the 2 to 300 BC that it was a cross that was used for executing people that way, just like Jesus was. And so I shared that stuff with him, and we'll kind of see how it goes. So I've hit him pretty hard in a few things the last few days, or this week, I guess. It's maybe over the course of a week. But my gamble of giving him my mother's number seems to be working because um, he's still talking to me. So apparently she didn't tell him that I was some crazed apostate eating with the devil or something like that, you know? Um, and the amazing thing is too, I want to reiterate, is that the main elder that I'm talking to, he really does seem like a good guy that's trying to do the right thing. And it's quite an interesting study in psychology and sociology to watch the inner workings of how these high control groups affect people. I was actually at a local college today discussing it with the VA rep and one of their admissions people, and the ladies were both telling me that they want, regardless of where I go to school, they want me to bring by some of my papers for them to read about the experiences. So of course, I'm still spreading awareness, doing my activism pretty much anywhere I go to anyone that'll listen within reason. I don't just, if the conversation goes in a certain direction, I'll bring it up. But anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. This video is already at 12 minutes, and I'm just rambling and not drinking enough scotch. So, yeah, y'all have a good weekend, and thanks for watching. And let me know any specifics you want me to cover, or questions, comments, concerns. I'm pretty open to new ideas or suggestions on how to do things better. So you guys have a good one.